Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to a new video. Welcome to the very center of Moscow. I'm here at Manezh exhibition hall today. They've actually got a very interesting and cool exhibition going on. It's called Moscow 2030. We're gonna go and have a look and check it out. If you haven't heard of Manezh Hall before, it's this very famous old building right here in the very center of Moscow. And what we want to go and see is a transport expo about the transport of the future in Moscow. And you can see right out the front there's a few trains there. This is the way we're going to go inside. And where we actually are here is right by the famous Kremlin walls. And you can see the spires off in the distance. And then this is the rooftop of the shopping center that is underneath me here, called Okhotny Ryad. And this is a very well-known underground shopping center in the center of Moscow. It's currently water fountain season, so everywhere you go there's water fountains going. There's lots of people around as well today. Now today is Friday evening here in Moscow. The weather's not the best. It's been telling me it's going to rain at some point today. So let's see, hopefully we're not going to be affected by it. We're going to be going indoors anyway, so no worries at all. The Moscow 2030 Expo is actually quite a bit bigger than just this one exhibition hall. There's about 30 locations throughout Moscow that you can actually come to and see different innovative future events or things that will happen in Moscow in the next lot of years. And what we want to concentrate is on the transport. I know how hugely popular my videos are when I do them on the metro and on the trains. This train in front of us might look familiar. This is the E-Volga 4.0, and I actually made a video on this very train because it runs from my home station, and this is actually one of the train carriages right here. And then on the left hand side is actually the newest metro train. This is the Moscow 2024 model. What they do when they update them, they generally have them by year of manufacture. So this is the absolute newest model, and you can literally catch the metro in Moscow and ride one of these. And what I always find very interesting is all of the people coming to look at these who more than likely caught the metro here to actually come to this event, and then they come to look at the newest model because maybe they didn't see this one yet or they've not caught it. Lots of pretty cool features, and it's very nice. They've actually got the USB charging on the handrails, which is really convenient. So if you're just making a short ride, you can plug your phone in for recharging. You can actually line up and go sit in the cab as well. It's a little bit of a long line, so I think I'll avoid doing that today. Lots of people are excited to do that. They're letting you know here that the width of the passageway is wider on these trains. I'm not sure how they do that. They must make the chairs smaller. But they want to definitely show us what the newest trains look like. And both of these, you can catch them right now and they're in active service. And this is the E-Volga. Now, I came on this train line today to get here, but I didn't catch this train because it wasn't the one that I caught. Have a look at the line to actually go in the cab on this one. There is a very big line, so we'll just walk through. And if you want to see a full video on this train, I've got it on my channel. Very nice. They've got USB charging here. They've also got the chargers right here in between the chairs. This is a beautiful train if you get a chance to ride it. But I will put a card for you to watch if you want to see a video of this particular train. Now this is, of course, is not the full model, but it's a beautiful train, and I'm very lucky that this leaves from my home station here in Moscow Coming on inside, there is one more bag check, and then we come on into the main part of the exhibition hall. Now, I've actually been here quite a few times before for other events, so thankfully I know my way around a little bit, and lots of people who turn up don't tend to notice which way to turn, left or right. And there is actually a lower ground floor here as well, and there is some events going on down there. We're going to focus on the stuff upstairs, because this for me is the coolest part. You can get a selfie against the backdrop. Let's head on inside and get a little bit closer to all the displays. I think if you're a Moscow resident, some of the things that I'll show you will be quite familiar. Perhaps if you live outside of Moscow, also some things will be. And this is actually a very big exhibition hall which holds different events every month. This particular one's going on for 2 or 3 months, I think. And it's talking about the transport of the future and showing a lot of the different public transport systems that they've got in Moscow. They've got quite a lot of it set up to maybe look like the Moscow metro and what the stations look like with the doors and things like that. And they've actually also got some trains in here as well, which is really so cool to see. The idea with the expo as I walk around is it actually goes from the past to the present, showing you what Moscow used to look like and what it will look like. So I'm going to point a few things out that I've noticed that might seem particularly interesting. Okay, let's go into this first part. Now, the reason I'm actually smiling and a little bit happy is I came here last week very briefly to check this out, and I didn't have a lot of time to stay and walk around, and I had to come back to make a video. And the idea is when you walk in this first part, it's meant to replicate what Moscow was like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, and these garages and the gentleman sitting in here. So this is actually video walls, and it mimics what these garages would look like. And these are all over Russia. There is literally millions of these, and the gentlemen generally store a vehicle in there, and they come into these garages to get away from their wife or loved one, and they've got a sofa and a tea and coffee station set up, and then normally they pull their car out of the garage. And then this video here is just so realistic to what it would look like, and even with the oil stain on the floor as well. And if you are from Russia, please tell me how similar this looks to the modern day Russia and how it was in the past. And probably the most famous fence or concrete wall or paneling right here, and they've got a couple of them set up, and always famously there's a hole in them when people might want to go from one side of the train tracks to the other. You can actually scooch through. And then the garden right here, and the very classic Russian or Soviet swings. And then this big video wall is meant to look like a very typical Moscow suburb. And the kids playing in the water and on the swings. And I could literally go 10 kilometers from here and see this exact look. And you see here the gentleman coming out because he wants to, the car's blocking the way. This is very normal as well. And this is meant to resemble a Moscow suburb of the past. And you can see this lower level of the apartment blocks, always on the ground floor, that always have the metal bars on the windows. Not really ever too sure why. And then the balcony with the cat on it as well, right there. And then where we come upstairs to these seats and this tree right here, you'll see now how the modern suburbs look on these video screens. And this is really one of the new micro districts somewhere in Moscow. And the kids playing on the swings. And this is essentially what Moscow of the future looks like. But you can very much go from the past to the present. Even right now, it's not changed a whole lot. The Lada car parked right there. I live around about 50 kilometers from Moscow, and I literally can walk a few streets from my place, and these very typical buildings are absolutely all over the suburb where I live. You can see here where the car is parked and the people sitting outside. And it's really interesting on that picture there, there's the two gentlemen having a chat. This is a big video wall, of course. And then they mimic the garden, and they love to make these sculptures out of car tires. And this is very normal. And everybody that walks in here has a smile on their face because they know how much this is Moscow and it is Russia in this part. Everybody thinks we're walking on an oil stain on the driveway. How cool. This is just the first part. Now, I won't show the whole expo, but this one is really very, very interesting, especially for everybody that's grown up here in Russia, and just how similar it looks to where they live. And we could literally catch a bus from here and see this exact suburb like we're seeing on the pictures. As I look around this part, I really have to commend whoever the person was that did this design and this layout, because it's so close, or it is what Russia looks like. Now, everybody will tell me that Moscow doesn't look anything like this, but if I was to catch a train home, I could walk down practically the same street and show exactly what this looks like. So they have this video montage here playing where it shows what Moscow used to look like. And you can see this video wall now change from the past to the present. And then the electric bus going by, and then the river right here. And this is pretty much somewhere nearby. And then it's showing all the modern apartments and how it goes from the past to the present. And I think a lot of people maybe not notice this as they walk through here and see how it changes from one scene to the next, and how simple of a concept it is for them to do this. All the modern buildings of Moscow right here. This is very neat. They have one more room here with showing the past and the future, and again they show like the oil spills or the water on the floor here, and then they've got the bus stop of the past. And this is really still in some parts of Moscow, especially in Moscow region, and quite famously all of the advertisements on there, things for sale, events, concerts. And then they've got this very big video wall here that mimics the other side of the street and what it used to look like in Moscow, and what it really still does look like. Everybody waiting for the bus and the marshrutka right here, or the local Suburban bus. Now, I still catch these buses myself, and they've only got one part of it, and there's actually so they've actually got a real driver in there who's calling you to get in the bus, like they really do. And this video wall showing one of the Suburban buses and everybody lining up to get on the bus, and then what it used to look like with rubbish on the floor and things like that. And then the bus stop with the 2 different buses that you can catch. And then always famously the babushka sitting here with some cucumbers and some seeds. And very, very cool. Basically from the past and the olden days of Moscow, which really isn't that far away from the truth. And this gentleman, that's the guy in the bus here, he's calling people over like they really do and telling you where the bus is going to. And then from the past we step into the future, we see the new pavement, and then these little kiosks that they've got set up through Moscow that would be selling the nuts and seeds. And then the new electric buses. And again, this is all a video wall on there as well. And then the modern new bus stop, which is actually all over Moscow already. We actually have one of these bus stops where I live. So it's really so cool to see this. And then they're actually even showing you some of the features. They've got the USB charging right there. And they talk about the features of the bus stop. And then also the electric bikes. And you can rent these by an app on your phone. So it's really just such a contrast going from the past to the future. And then you actually have to walk on the bus to go through to the next part of the exhibit. And then it mimics that you're actually inside the bus. And then they've got the video wall showing again with us riding the bus through Moscow. Literally, these buses are on the streets right now. Not all of them are electric. There is about 1,500 of them. I think it's the largest amount of electric buses in the world in one city. Someone has to correct me. This is actually the old bus that was showing on this side. Now they jumped to the new one. So they're just showing again what the past was and then to the future or present. And I wonder how many people notice this as they walk through. Whoever's done all of these video walls and video screens has done such an amazing job of showing the real life in Moscow. The scooters, of course, there is thousands of these in Moscow and all over. And then they actually show some of the streets of Moscow. And we're actually stepping back into the past a little bit here to show some of the things of the past in Moscow. One of these booths where you can buy the tickets to concerts. And then the booth with flowers. This is very neat. And then there's actually these video walls with the shops. I think it's a little bit hard to explain this, what I'm showing, because it's basically mimicking what Moscow was in the past. And on some parts of Moscow region, this is really the current day. And they've got the shawarma shop here and the gentleman carving the meat, and then, you know, the rubbish on the floor, roast chickens, and then the lady here doing the crossword puzzle, and she has the shop. And what we want is the donuts right there. And this is so much real life imitated at the same time. I wish if anyone is in Moscow or has a chance to come to this, definitely come and see this transport expo. And they've actually set up the entrance here to the metro, and it's showing essentially the past and the future, and where the old stations here, the doors were broken, they were scratched and dirty, there was puddles in front, and then how it's changed to the present day with the modern turnstiles and then the modern interactive counters with the lady where you can get the tickets. And it's just so interesting. You can actually check your Metro card here and get your balance. And the lady. So this is the future and the new Moscow Metro and train station ladies. And then there is the old one on this side. So you can see the turnstiles. I literally came through these to go on the Metro today. And then going into the past, there's the lady here. So here's one of the old ticket machines for the Metro. And then the lady that's in the video wall here is really what they used to be. She's drinking her tea. She's like, what do you want? You know, let me give you a ticket. And then from the past to the future and how it changes and how it becomes so modernized. They're even showing a little clip of people getting on and off the Metro trains and how narrow the doors are on the old models of the Metro. And then over on the opposite side, it then shows the new modern Metro and how it's got wider doors, it's got more doors to go in, and just how it's changed. They've also got the signage, and again, just the amount of work to mimic the Metro stations is phenomenal, really and truly. And as we go through, it goes then and shows the Metro train in the past and present. So let's see if we can see the old train here. So this is the old one. They had posters and advertising on the screens, and everybody was trying to talk over each other because it was so loud. And then the modern new one, you know, so much wider seats, different doors, and such a contrast to what it was like on the old Metro here in Moscow. They have another street scene set up with the cars all parked very badly, which is very normal. And then the cars parked on the side of the road, and showing again what Moscow was like, all the advertising everywhere, and really didn't look beautiful. And then when you swing around to the modern Moscow, you can see how there's less cars and less parking, more places to sit, and just a more cleaner, more beautiful looking Moscow. This next area talks about the Moskvich cars and the fact that they're assembled and made in Moscow, and they're showing actually the new model 8 right here, and then this is the model 6, and then the original model 3. So this one actually came in petrol and electric also. They really look quite similar, and they're letting everybody get inside and sit in them and press some buttons. And then there is actually a very big video wall that wraps around and shows the actual making of the cars, but I don't think we'll quite catch the show. Walking through to the next part of the expo, it talks about electric vehicles and the future of Russian-produced electric vehicles. And they've got a few different prototypes on display. And this one is the Atom. Now they've actually been talking about this one for quite a few years, and they've even got a website set up now where you can register interest in buying one. It looks about the size of a small Suzuki Swift, or maybe something a little bit bigger than a Mini when you see it in person. And they've actually got one of the charging stations at the back as well. These charging stations are actually all over Moscow, and there are some pretty cool features. If you have an electric car in Moscow, you get free parking in the center of Moscow if you've got an electric vehicle. So they're trying to persuade people to get one. And then there's a second model over here called Lightning. This is a little bit of a bigger car, maybe Hyundai Elantra, roughly. This one is a pure prototype based on the people of Moscow's wants and needs of an electric car. And they had lots of people who put their suggestions forward about what the ideal Moscow car would be. And then again, another charging station. So they've got these dotted around Moscow, and they're becoming a thing. It's very slow for it to happen, but it will. And they're really trying to put an emphasis on electric vehicles. The bigger problem generally though here is winters, and the batteries just don't hold their charge come winter time, especially when it gets down to minus 25 here. It's really not ideal for electric vehicles. And this is one of the Moscow administration's camera cars that they use on the roads. This is actually the electric version too, and you can tell because it's got the charging port right here in the front, which is super cool. So the one that we saw previously was the petrol version, and this is the electric one. You can see the cameras on top. So this also assists with people that break down, or perhaps they're in an accident and they're essentially like a on-call or response vehicle that the local administration has. The other thing that they're showing and talking about is the future high-speed train from Moscow to St. Petersburg. Now they already have one in place, but this one is meant to go even faster, and you can actually go inside a mock of the train, and there's a video presentation, and we're not going to go and do that because it's very interesting, but it's a little bit difficult to cover as a segment in this video. They also have part of the electric river tram here as well, and then they've actually got the boats. They're not here today. When I came the other day, they had remote control boats. I wonder what happened to them. But they have a display for the electric river tram. I've done 2 videos on this, so if you want to see that video, it's one of my most popular videos on the channel where I rode it in winter and summer. So it's definitely worth watching that at some point. There's definitely a lot of interest in these different exhibits throughout Moscow. This one, of course, being right in the center. It's nice and easy to attend, and they've got them all over Moscow. And it's just super interesting to see some of the future developments of Moscow transport, and then quite a lot of things that are already in place. This is pretty neat. They've actually got the train tracks right here, and then they've got a display talking about the different train lines. So the train we saw outside, and the one that I can catch from my house, is the D4 line right there. And they've got the other D1, 2, and 3 set up. Then it shows the actual route that each of the trains takes. They've also got another cab of the train, so you can actually go inside and get photographs inside the front of the train. And they've got a cutaway also here of the train that we saw outside, and you can see the same chairs and the same setup that we saw. And a lot of this that we see here is really to educate everybody on what is currently in operation in Russia and in Moscow, and what will become future transport. So it's really very interesting. There's one of the trams, and the same thing again, you can get a photograph in the cab of the tram. So much interaction and things that you can actually do. There's video screens and video walls. And this one actually is the mock of you actually driving one of the Moscow trams, and it's showing some of the features of it and all of the redundancy they got in place for safety. I really hope everyone's enjoying this video as much as I am walking around here. This is my second time coming to this expo. I came a couple of weeks ago when it first opened, and I believe it's on for about 3 months. So as many people as possible in Moscow and Russia can come and attend it. They have a really cool display here of one of the electric buses, and it's literally sliced in half. So you can see all of the technology, and what they really want to show is the electric parts of it, and then the pantograph that goes up for the charging of the battery of the bus. So they have a really neat cutaway, and then literally exactly what the bus would be, but it's cut in half. And then they show the construction and manufacturing of it here on a video wall at the back, and I would imagine some of the maintenance that they do on them at the same time. So a lot of people perhaps haven't seen these electric buses. They are all over Moscow and Moscow region, but it's a matter of catching one at the same time as well. Very neat. They've got the cutaway to show the wheels. And of course, everybody wants to sit in the driver's seat, and the line for people who want to get their photograph sitting at the front. They have a video playing showing the charging sequence for the bus when it comes to one of the depots or charging points. They've actually set up these mini depots all through Moscow where you can actually charge the buses in service. So they just pull in and then they can charge just a short period of time. You'll see these things up on the top right here, all dotted around. This is where the buses pull into, and they can charge right there. It's essentially a quick charger for the buses. Very neat. Of course, not everybody is going to be as excited about public transport as I am, but there's definitely people here, and there's definitely plenty of people showing interest in seeing the buses and trains up close, and then getting involved in some of the interactive displays. I mean, I think for me this is very cool to see, especially that beginning part with the past and the future of Moscow, and how so close to realism it is even now in some of the towns outside of the center of Moscow. Now, we can't actually see this in use, but this is the new facial recognition system that you can link to your Troika payment card for the public transport, and then you can literally walk up to the eye retina, and if it doesn't recognize you, you can see it turns red, and if it recognizes you, it would turn green to go through. So this is actually already implemented, not at every station in Moscow, but at some of them. So they're showing some of the features of the metro and some of the new technology that is becoming part of the Moscow metro system. And a lot of this is all interactive. And then I didn't really point it out from the beginning, but there's lots of people who are here to talk about the exhibit and what we're looking at and what the future of Moscow transport will be. I'm really curious for everyone who's watching at home. Do they have these sorts of things in the city where you live, where they show all of the public transport systems and what the future of Moscow transport will be. And we're wondering if even in Australia we've got something like this. I don't believe we do, where they do it on this scale like they do in Russia. I thought I'd show something a little bit interesting. Now, this is actually on the lower level where the other part of the expo is. So there's a very traditional vending machine, and then there's a coffee machine. So this is very normal. Press the button, get your product. Of course, you're going to pay with notes or your card. And they've actually got one of these, I'm not sure how to put it, self-serve vending machines. And this is something that I've seen a couple of times before. And this all goes on the honor system. So literally, you can just grab whatever you want. And then up the top here, there's the payment method right there. So you scan the item and then you scan your card. And if you get some kind of hot food, there's a microwave. There's also sandwiches. But can somebody in the world tell me, have they seen something like this before, where it's literally help yourself and then pay right there with your card? Of course, my favorite Skittles are sitting right there waiting for me, and cola. And has anybody seen this somewhere in the world? Let me know in the comments. Most of the downstairs area is taken up by cafes and somewhere where you can actually eat and relax for a little while. There's a lot of walking that you can do in Moscow, and it's a nice place just to relax between walking around all the different events. And then on this right hand side they have this very big kids section set up where they've got different activities that the kids can do, and it's all based around transport and about safety and different things. There's also bike riding, and the one off in the distance there, they're doing road transport safety, so the kids can understand the different signs and things on the road. And how cool is this? This is all completely free. They just need to register to come and do this. Coming back outside, pretty much the last exhibit they have is one of the new electric buses made by the very famous KAMAZ company, and lots of people are waiting for their bus to take them home. I'm not too sure if it'll leave from this point or not. Hopefully they're okay with waiting for the bus for a little while. And there's a few really cool features. Now, they've actually got their phone plugged in. They've got charging right there on the handles. Now, I'm sure this is not, groundbreaking technology in any way. However, for the Moscow transport, these are pretty much the standard features that they're introducing. You'll see off to the side here, there's more chargers right there. And there is lots of features in this bus that I'm probably not going to fully explain. But if you ride these in winter or summer, they've of course got the heating and air conditioning. So they're very nice buses. And we would only literally need to cross the street to actually catch one of these, because these are currently in operation in Moscow. Very nice. What I really like is the fact that this is really just one of the normal buses on the current Moscow bus network, and they've just got it parked up here. And I'm sure not everybody's seen the electric buses yet, but they are around. And then where we started out at the beginning there with the Moscow metro train, and then the E-Volga 4 on the other side. Such a beautiful train. You have to watch that video if you haven't seen it. So I was just about to film the end of my video walking in the Moscow 2030 Expo, and I've come over here to where is Alexander Garden and Manage Square, and they've actually got a cooking demonstration or masterclass and they had burgers on there, of all things. And they've got some of the people hosting an event. And just have a look around. It's now just about 8 o'clock here in Moscow, and a lot of people enjoying the nice sunny weather. Beautiful blue skies today. Of course, typical me getting distracted when they've got a burger masterclass practically on Red Square, and it was really interesting. They actually heard me speaking English and then involved me for a few minutes with the people in the audience. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you think. Of course, what we saw was Moscow 2030 and the future of transport in Russia. And we saw a lot of the modern trains and buses. Now, of course, it's not for everybody. I understand that. So if it gets 20 views or 20 million views, I'm not in control of that. You guys are watching. So let me know, are you a train buff or a train fan? Let me know in the comments. If you want to join me on Telegram, there's a link coming up right here. You can click that. And then if you want to watch another video on the channel, there's one coming up right now. You can click that and keep traveling with Russell. Okay, everybody, I'm off on another adventure. Bye.